At the starting of the week, at Summit Talks, you'll hear them speak. It's only Monday.
Good morning, Vietnam. What's going on, guys? It's your boy JT, and welcome to another episode of It's Only Monday podcast. This is the podcast to put a little pip in your step. This is the podcast to make a Monday feel like a Friday, but who really cares because time is a construct. This is the podcast to get your Monday going because it gets the people going. How you guys doing today? I hope you had a great weekend, and I hope you're ready to take this Monday on like a champ. I mean, like, take it head on. I mean, go straight into this Monday and make it yours. And you know what? That really kind of dives into what we're speaking about today. Let me take off my glasses and make some eye contact with you. If you're listening right now through audio, hey, what's up? If you see me through video, I see you. What's popping? If you're on your way to work right now, if you're at work, if you're in the kitchen getting ready, if you're at school, if you just came back from an overnight, whatever it is, welcome. Let's take a minute and thank God for another day. Now, today, what we're going to be talking about, kind of like what I was kind of prefacing in the beginning of this, about taking Monday head on and get your energy up. If you haven't drank some coffee, take a sip now. I'm drinking tea right now, so you see how piping hot that is. All right, so what we're talking about today is, hey, something that everyone has. Problems. We're talking about problems, but we're going to go really in depth. We're not just going to talk about problems and, we're going to kind of go in depth in these problems and really break it down. Now, again, this podcast is how I operate in the world. And I kind of like giving you guys my insight of how I operate. And I'm hoping that maybe it works for one of you guys. Again, I'm a very positive person. A lot of times people say I'm always smiling, I'm always happy, which is true, but it's also because of my mindset and how I look at things, right? So I kind of want to lend that to you guys, and that's what I'm doing through this a podcast. So the way I want to talk about problems is, and we're going to get deeper into problems in the sense of, I guess we'll talk on the topic of procrastination and use that as a way to kind of talk about, because at the end of the day, there's a wide range of things. So I don't want to go too deep into things. I kind of want to go with the mechanics of how you can look at this and make it work for you. And then you can reverse engineer this for anything else you're dealing with. Again, certain level of things. If it's something crazy deep, I'm not, this might not be what you need. You might need more, but I'm talking about taking on Mondays and taking on the week and taking on, work life, school, things like that. That's the kind of realm I'm kind of operating in right now. I'm giving you this advice. It can work for deeper things, but again, I'm prefacing this with, this is for that kind of realm. So before we get into it, let's think about today. Today, the glass is half full. We're going forward today with good energy, good thoughts, and knowing that like we can take on things. And you know what? Let's not run away from anything that like we have to deal with, but go on to it head on. So first things first, let's break down what is a problem. See, the thing about me is I like to look at the world as, or in anything, as the simplest form. That's how I figure things out. Quick story. When I draw, I can actually draw, and I can draw things I see very well, like mimic and copy it perfectly almost. So when I was 10 years old, this is when I first started drawing. I wanted to draw Dragon Ball Z. Again, if you guys know Dragon Ball Z anime, I love that show. And the way I was looking at it was like, I'm like, all right, I want to draw Goku or Vegeta or whoever it was. And I got a sketchbook and I'm like, obviously looking at it, it was like, well, this is hard. But in my mind, I said, hey, and this is 10-year-old me, right? And I have the dates on the book and everything. And I said, all I'm looking at is a bunch of squiggly lines. Some are circles, some are straight lines, some are triangles, some are, rectangles, whatever. But when all these lines are formed together, they make a picture of Goku or Vegeta, whoever I was drawing. So because I told myself that as the simplest form, I didn't approach drawing as hard. I was like, yo, I'm just drawing a bunch of lines in different ways, angles, etc., and eventually it will come together and make a photo that I'm trying to draw. That's how I looked at it. That's how I knew, like, my brain was like, okay, that's how I looked at things from like a bigger, I tried to break it down to the smallest, most minuscule thing it was. You know what I mean? So let's look at a problem that way with that same mindset. A problem really is, we deal with problems all the time, right? A problem is just something, again, this is me breaking it down, not a definition from Webster's dictionary. But to me, what I think a problem is something that needs a solution. That's it. So what is a problem? Well, you're hungry, right? That's a problem. But what's the solution? You eat. So you go make some food, right? You're tired. That's a problem. What do you need? Sleep. See, these are problems that we might not see as problems because we just see it as every day. But again, a problem, this is why I want to go into a problem, it can be looked at as an obstacle, right? Now, a lot of times there's obstacles and there's problems. People look at sometimes obstacles as problems, but I think the word problems, we attach a negative connotation to it. So a lot of time it's like a bigger issue. So let's look at the word obstacle. There's many obstacles right now. It's Monday morning. You have many obstacles you're gonna have to challenge yourself for this week, right? Some obstacles, and why I wanted to go into procrastination, is things that you want to avoid. And again, we kind of went to the first episode talking about, how our body tries to, and our brain tries to protect us from fear and things that can affect us. So sometimes avoidance and procrastination is technically a way of protecting ourselves from doing something that we don't want to do. Not because it's going to hurt us, but necessarily because it just might be boring, right? But going back to the topic of problems. So the reason why I wanted to start with problems before going to obstacles and trying to break it down into what is it's like trying to go down to the finite detail of what is an obstacle or a problem. A problem, is an obstacle, right? But again, breaking it down to the food, and when you're hungry, it's a problem, but when you go eat, that's your solution. We see that as now maybe an obstacle, right? Because we don't have the negative connotation to it. So where am I going with this? There's a bunch of things that you have to deal with this week that are either problems, obstacles, or maybe just nuisances, right? So I want to first get into the mindset of let's break these things down, because a lot of times we like to blanket things. And I think this is where our mindsets go, because if we blanket something with a problem, then our mind just automatically thinks it's something that's just, we give it more energy and more than it needs to have. And what do I mean by that? You put more weight on it, right? Let's say right now you're in school, right? You have an assignment to do that's due Friday, Is that a problem? No, it's work you got to do. Is it an obstacle? You might have things you need to do during this week that makes you busy, but you still got to get it done, right? This is why I wanted to kind of add procrastination into this, right? But it's an obstacle. It's something you got to do and get past, right? Is it a problem? No. Again, problems we look at a little differently. So again, I don't want to take anyone's issues or anything and try to pit them against each other. But with me, I always look at things from comparison. And I think comparison's a great thing. I think a lot of people think comparison is horrible, especially with social media, et cetera, et cetera. But I think comparison is good because it puts in perspective of what's going on, right? You all heard that big line where Kim Kardashian's complaining, and I think Kourtney says Kim, people are dying, some line like that, right? It's kind of true though. When you think about it, there's so much things in this world happening. And I just saw an interview with Dame Dash, right? And in this first portion, I really want to break down what the difference between a problem and an obstacle and how to look at it. Dame Dash had an interview on Diary of a CEO. That's a dope channel. Check it out on YouTube if you have it. And he said this. I'll just play it for you guys.
Also, it makes you appreciate what a real problem is. After my mom's died, I was like, if nobody's dying, I don't really want to hear about it. It could be fixed. I'm not going to ever be unhappy unless it has something to do with health, death, or freedom. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, nothing's going to ever make me worry. I'm not going to be, a lot of people overreact to problems because they never had any. They don't know what a problem is, and then they make something that's light feel like it's the worst thing in the world. And I'm not going to ever do that because I appreciate when things are good.
So the mindset of if no one's dying, and no one's in dire need at the moment, then it's not a big deal. That's kind of the mindset you kind of have to take on in life, right? It's, again, not trying to peg down the issues you're dealing with and saying that it's not important. But what I am saying is we got to look at things in the grand scheme of things. Again, this is just the way I look at the world. And again, it may help you depending on where you are in life right now and how you're dealing with your things, especially when it comes to maybe school, work, again, things in that type of realm. Again, I'm not going so deep into real issues that you're dealing with that are bigger than that. Again, this maybe you need something more than that. But this is just about school, work, those type of things in life. So yeah, at the end of the day, problems, when you look at it that way, it's okay, then we kind of put in perspective what a problem is, right? When you think of the grand scheme of things that are happening in the world, okay, you might not have a problem, you might have an obstacle, right? And then it goes to complaining. Every day we hear people complaining about things that are, at the end of the day, it's not a big deal at all. But for some reason, that's why we have the term first world problems. We complain about things that are just not actually issues or problems. It's just we want to complain, which I personally think is wasted energy. Everything is energy in our world, right? And when you spend that energy that you could have, or the time too, because time is important to me and it's big, when you spend that on something that necessarily isn't that important or isn't a problem or an obstacle, and you're just giving time and energy to something that is just wasting it, technically, that's a waste of time, you know what I mean? And a waste of energy. And you could have done something, you could have created something, you could have brought something to this world. So with now putting that in perspective, if you kind of have what problems are and versus obstacles, there's some obstacles you're going to have to, deal with this week, right? Whether it's at school, it's at work, whatever you're doing, So a lot of times, this is where we get into now the world of procrastination. Now, a lot of times we like to avoid those problems if we can. There might be something in your house you need to fix and you've been avoiding it for the last 2 months. Bruh. Why? Well, again, you just don't feel like doing it, or it's just something that's going to take a long time. I get it. Cool. But you are pushing it off, right? And let's say it's like you have, perfect example, let's say you have 2 bathrooms in your house and one of your toilets is broken and you're going to have family over for the holidays or for whatever. And you're like, you know what? I'll put it off. I don't got to do it. Okay, cool. It's a problem. Not at the moment. You still got 2 bathrooms, but at the end of the day, if everyone comes over, you have 30 people coming over and they all come over, it's going to be a problem. So you're pushing it off. It's not a problem right now. It's an obstacle, but you're procrastinating. Cool. Then we get to the place of this other quote I came across online. And let me try to summarize it. So what I came across online was it said that buffaloes don't like rain and they don't like water like that, like rain on their bodies. And I think it was buffaloes. Again, I'm not going to stop and do research. And if I can find it, I'll cut it in. But if not, I'll just say it right now. Buffaloes don't like rain. So what happens is when they see a storm cloud, they run towards it. Now, you might think, okay, they're running towards it, they're just going to go get wet. Well, technically, when you think about it, the storm cloud is coming towards them. If they run away from it, it's going to follow them and eventually go and then catch up to them. If they stay where it is and just wait for it to pass, it might be an hour, it might be 5 minutes, it might be a week. I mean, sorry, not a week, but the whole night. Like, who knows how long it's going to, right? But if they run towards it, they go through it as quick as possible because it's passing and they're going towards it and running past it. So it's doing this. If you're not watching from the video, what I'm doing with my hands is showing one hand going one direction, one going the other way, and it overlaps and passes each other. That kind of is a good way to look at obstacles and problems that you have to look forward to this week that you might be putting off or you might be dreading. Instead of trying to be the person or the buffalo that, runs away from it and it's eventually going to catch up to you because you're going to have to do it. Just like if you had the analogy, like I was saying, the toilet that needs to be fixed and you don't fix it, eventually that day's going to come when everyone comes over and, well, now you have a problem because now you have one bathroom. And that's how you make procrastination, make an obstacle turn into more of a problem. Then on top of that, if you stay there and just kind of wait and do nothing, then it's another thing where it comes, the issue comes, right? And now you're stuck in it and it's like, okay, what do I do? But if you have the mindset of like the buffaloes that run forward and run into it, that's how you have to take on any obstacle this week. I want you to run towards it. I want you to go with it. First of all, with the confidence to be like, all right, I can do this. First of all, the answers are everywhere. Let's go back to 10-year-old Josh, who looked at drawing as drawing a bunch of lines and squiggly lines and all that kind of stuff just to make a picture. So let's break down whatever obstacle you're dealing with this week and just go forward with it and break it down to what it actually is. You know what I mean? What is the issue? What is this obstacle? Let's say it's let's say for school, you have to do an interview with somebody and, do a whole breakdown. Okay, what am I really doing here? All I'm doing is talking to a person and asking questions and getting information, right? And then putting it together as a package, etc., of however it's supposed to be handed in. Like when you break things down to the what the root is, it just sounds so simple. And you're like, wait a second, I'm making it sound bigger than it is. So, and this can be homework for the week. I want you to take any obstacle you have that you've been dreading, you've been procrastinating, or you've been putting off, or you just don't have to worry about it because maybe it's kind of further out. And I want you to choose one thing. It doesn't have to be something crazy. It doesn't have to be something wild. It can be something small, right? But something that you know you've been putting off this like for a while, and just go forward and do it. Now, this can even lead into goals. This can lead into ideas. This can lead into things that you've wanted to do. You know, you might have something that you want to do that you've been kind of putting off. Oh, I'll do it soon. I'll do it later, but you haven't done it yet. This is a perfect exercise I think you guys can do this week for this as homework. So find something that it is that you want to do and just start it, right? If it's something that's big, like you're like, hey, I want to make $1 million. Like, okay, cool. Like if you haven't really figured out the path yet, like let's take a minute and do the steps there, right? But if you have an idea of something that you want to do and want to get done, I want you to go and start it. If it's something that you're pushing off and you've been putting off for a little while, I want you to attack that this week and just run head onto it and just deal with it. No waiting, no being procrastinating, and just attack it head on and deal with it. I think it's a good way to really train your mind to see problems and obstacles for what they really are, which is just something without a solution for the moment. You know, and again, the reason why I was saying earlier, like you being hungry is a problem is because if you don't eat, you're going to get hungrier. Some people get hangry, and then eventually, you know what I mean? If you don't eat, you can die, but that's obviously, you're not going to get to that point. But the whole point of what I'm trying to say is it's a problem. It's an obstacle. It's a problem. It's just something that we do just so automatic that we don't think about it. So eventually all the problems you deal with will be automatic. And this is a good exercise to do because, for example, CEOs and a lot of bosses, a lot of times they say they're just like firefighters. You know, Gary Vee says this all the time. He's just putting out fires. You know, I've watched many documentaries and videos and podcasts and interviews, especially like Diary of the CEO. If you watch that, again, shout out to that channel. You know, a lot of times these guys will say that it's just them putting out fires. It's problems and it needs solutions. And that's what they're doing day in and day out. But eventually you do it so many times that it's not a big deal to you. And then a lot of times problems, like kind of like what Dame Dash said, like is a real problem. You know, like, all right, if it's nothing that's like dire, people in need help, someone's going to die, or someone, like if it's not those things, then it's really not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? And again, it goes back to people complaining and first world problems and talking about things that's just not really anything. So that's kind of what I want to talk about this morning, Monday morning. I want you to really decipher the difference between problems, obstacles, and stop procrastinating on it. I want you to go on it head on. Again, the homework this week is to go and find something that you've been putting off and attack it head on and just do it. It's a good practice in doing things and getting things done. And lastly, I think what I want to leave you with is to really try to break things down. Again, that's one tactic I've always used all my life that's helped me and served me well. And I think it's something that you guys could use if you try it out. You know, really break things down to what it is at its base and its core. Like if you are working on something, like, again, I think programmers have this mindset too when they're programming and they got to kind of figure out what to do. Like it's just a mindset of kind of and seeing everything laid out and seeing what it really is. You know what I mean? It's kind of that mindset again, where I'm back when I was 10 years old, where I'm just telling myself how to draw is just drawing squiggly lines and straight lines and all that kind of stuff. And eventually it just makes a picture. That's what you got to kind of do this week. I want you to do for some things, kind of really break things down that you think are hard or whatever is an issue to just its simplest form. And then when you look at it that way, you're like, oh, this isn't hard. That's how I see it. Again, it doesn't work for everything, but for some things it may work. So that's what I want to hit you guys with this Monday morning. I want you to make sure that you really do the homework this week and get something done, because at the end of the day, the long-term effect of that is you have the mindset of getting things done, but the short-term mindset of this or not even short-term mindset, but the short term is you get something done. And you're going to be like, damn, at least Josh helped me get whatever I needed done this week done. So it's a win-win situation. Hopefully I change your mindset and you start running head on to any obstacles and stuff you have to deal with, or you get something done that you've been putting off for a while. All right. Anyways, guys, that has been another episode of It's Only Monday podcast. Make sure you have your coffee, your tea, whatever it is that you drink. I'm drinking the tea, like I said this morning. But again, I'm a coffee guy, but whatever it is, what it is. Before we go, I want to say thank God for another day. We always got to make sure, be grateful. Just thank God for being alive, and enjoy your Monday. Go in with this energy, positive attitudes, and just really take things head on. Again, if you go and control what you need to control and take control of an issue or an obstacle, it doesn't take control of you. Anyways, guys, that's been it for another episode of It's Only Monday. I'm your boy JT. I hope your Monday is action packed. I hope you get a lot done. I hope you make moves. And I'll see you in the next one. Happy Monday, y'all.